Check. 1, 2, 2.
The D3. This is the D3.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the D3.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief for Election Day, November 6th, 2018. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarcello.
And let's get this out of the way. If you haven't voted, go do
vote.
It right now.
Right now.
Stop the podcast.
Drop everything.
Okay.
Go.
Come back when you're done.
Yes.
Okay, you done? Good. Here's what we've got on today's show. First of all, Steve Johnson, good friend of the show. He is the founder of Motor City Brew Tours, and he's also written a book about Detroit beer. So it is the changing of the season. We're going to talk to him and find out what, winter beers, basically, we need to be drinking.
That's very important. MoCAD coming up has a project this week about everything about the gun issue in America. Pretty compelling.
All right. Also, there is a Michigan podcast that hit number 1 in iTunes. We'll tell you all about that.
And on Thursday, we've got our Spotlight interview coming up. This week, it's rapper Champtown, the director of the new documentary, The Untold Story of Detroit Hip Hop, available on Amazon.
And don't forget, next Monday evening, that's November 12th, 7 p.m. at Eastern Market Brewing, we are going to be doing a live show. This is our first ever live taping.
Solo, yes.
At least by ourselves. We did that one at Go Comedy. But we're excited for this. We're nervous. We're going to see what happens. Our guests?
Yes, we have Mark Kurlianchek, the Free Press restaurant critic and food writer, and Robert Allen, who's the Free Press beer columnist.
Also, comedian Mike Jeter.
I'm so excited Mike's going to be there.
Yeah, he started this podcast with me over a year ago at this point.
We miss him.
Yep, he went on. He's performed with Kevin Hart. We talked a lot about that while he was there. So if you've never seen Mike perform live, this is your chance to come out and see it. So please join us next Monday. Like I said, 7 p.m. Eastern Market Brewing on November 12th. Stick around. Coming up, we've got all your information about concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more.
This is the D3.
All right, Becky, time to meet our guest host for today's episode. He is a saxophonist, a producer, an educator. He is a Grammy-nominated recording artist. That's a big deal. I've never been nominated for a Grammy.
I have not either.
Maybe someday soon. Do they have a podcast category?
They will.
Okay, they better. Yeah. He also was a 2014 Detroit Music Award nominee for Entertainer of the Year. He is performing a couple of shows coming up on November 17th. We'll find out about those. But before that, he's been performing with Bruno Mars. He's been part of...
all around the world.
Yeah, the opening act, Charlie Wilson, and he is flying later this week to Hawaii for the very last date on that tour. Please welcome Saxappeal.
Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
What up, though?
Yeah, so glad you could join the show. I mean, let's talk about, first of all, this Bruno Mars tour. What's this been like?
Man, it's been incredible. It's everything as a musician, as an artist that you dream of, from very early on, doing your performances for your family when there's 10 to 15 people in the living room, to these moments, these sold out arenas with tens of thousands of people just staring at you and yelling at you. But it's nothing but positivity and fun. It doesn't matter about genres. It doesn't matter about age demographics, colors, none of that. Everybody's just having a good time. And, it makes you feel like everything that you've worked hard for, you're living your purpose.
When you do a show on a scale like that, is there stuff you have to do in terms of showmanship or performance or choreography?
Oh, yeah. And the thing is with Charlie, man, he's one of those people where it's like, if you feel like you need to stand still on my stage, you can get off of it.
Wow.
Like, even though I'm a sax player, we're doing dance moves. I'm jumping on top of speakers. I'm pointing at people, and we're doing these down. Like, I'm literally on my knees at one point. It's a lot of choreography.
Wow.
And some snazzy outfits.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of the video and things he's posted, and it's like, dang, you look like you're having a blast.
Yeah, and Charlie says it all the time. Like, he doesn't do concerts, he does parties.
Yes.
And that's exactly what it is. Like, we're there to set the mood for a good time, and that's what it's all about.
How many people are performing on stage when you do this?
I think there's 14 of us.
Wow.
It's a big
three-piece horn section, 2 backgrounds, drums, bass, keys, guitar, percussionist, 4 dancers, and Charlie.
Nice. And how has it been to work with Bruno Mars and his band?
It's It's actually really fun because Bruno's show and the Hooligans are a lot like us. It's just Bruno's just younger. He's like a younger Charlie. Like they have the same energy, same charismatic personality, you know, and it's always fun to watch those two interact. Like they look like, you know, Bruno is Charlie's nephew. It really looks like that, and they just have fun with each other, and that makes us have fun on stage.
So it's a great match.
It is. It's actually
good double bill.
It's such a weird. Like, I know a lot of people who are Bruno Mars fans. Like, we've seen the pictures. Like, you'll see him in the audience. Like, who is Charlie? Who's this Charlie Wilson guy? Like, he's a great up and comer. But like, Charlie's been out for 30 years. You know, he has like 11 Grammy nominations now, and like, there's still people who don't know who he is. And it's like for me, that's motivating. It's like, okay, somebody out here doesn't know who I am, and that's great. So let me introduce you to what I'm doing. You know,
right. It's kind of like people visiting Detroit. Like, it's kind of cool when they don't know what to expect. And then you show them and they're like, wow.
I never thought this was going to be this. And I get that all the time. It's like, Detroit's a beautiful place, you know, and they're like, I was so scared to come here. I didn't know what to expect. It's like, I always call Detroit like it's our very own little Wakanda.
Yes.
Like if you've ever seen Black Panther, like
of course.
You get inside of it and it's like, this is amazing. Why didn't nobody tell me it was this good? It's like, because we want to keep everybody out. This is our gym, you know?
Yeah, we keep our own and work with our own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So speaking of Grammy nominations, you've had a Grammy nomination.
I have.
How do you find out about that?
Oh
like, how do they let you know?
How exciting.
It was funny because I got like connected through it from the Grammy, I think it's like the Academy or like the people who vote for it. And the song that I got nominated for, I was doing background horns on for an R&B singer actually from here. His name is K-John. And his album got nominated, and you know, because you have to be listed as people in the liner notes, you know, credited for the work. Yeah. That's how I got the Grammy nomination. And once I saw it, like it was on his website, and I was like, yeah, you know, this song has been nominated for a Grammy, and I was like, hey, I was on that song. Yes. So now I have this great, you know, we didn't win or anything, but just to be able to say that you were nominated, I guess
that's a big deal.
Exactly. It's like doing a triathlon. Like, okay, maybe you didn't win, but you're ahead of 99% of the people in the world.
So you're working on new music now?
I am. Just finished up the latest project, so now it's in the next phase. It's all in the can, and it's in the mixing and mastering phase. We're going to start promoting for it. The name of the album is Black Gold. And I'm really looking forward to getting this new music out.
Where'd you record it? Here?
Yep. Okay. I had a few studios that I've recorded in. One was in Southwest Detroit, which was co-produced by my good friend Dean Beans of Every Music. So he, you know, we came together, and when I brought the concept of the project to him, I was like, hey man, I want this project to feel like jazz meets Detroit flavored hip hop. So it's a lot of you know, jazz and rhythmic type things on top of this, you know, that gritty Detroit. When you hear a Detroit song, you know it's from Detroit.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but it's jazz based. So it's like, it's new age Yusef Lateef meets Jay Dilla. And they had this baby, and this is what the project is going to sound like. So it'll actually feel like Detroit.
Nice.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're playing saxophone on the record?
I'm playing saxophone, clarinet, guitar, bass, keys, and I do some singing. So, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And you have other musicians that are also collaborating with you on the album?
Yep. There's some of the guys from Charlie's band is on it. Some of the horn section people. I got some singers on the project, some poets on the project. It's a big mesh of just good vibrations, you know.
Nice.
It's not just one category, and we're not just talking about one thing or singing about one thing or playing one style of music. It's like this big jambalaya pot of just good music, you know.
Oh, cool.
Good ingredients.
I wish it was out for Christmas. I want it for my gift.
I know, right?
Yeah.
February.
Yeah.
Black Gold.
Yeah.
Black Gold.
What about these shows coming up November 17th? Will we be able to see any preview of it there?
Unfortunately, no, because it's not a solo project. It's not like a solo gig that I have. But it will be some good fun, though. The 17th is at Motor City Casino. I'll be playing with the Ani Band from 5 to 9. And then I will be jumping off of that stage and running as fast as I can to Pontiac. I'm supposed to be on stage at 9 o'clock, but that's not going to happen. So if you...
spoiler alert.
Right. I'm just being real about it. Yeah. I'll show up a few minutes late, but it'll be fashionably late. So I'll figure it out.
All the best stars.
That's a lot of work.
Like, you were waiting for you.
That's the thing. Like, everybody is so used to, like, musicians showing up not on time.
Right.
And I'm so punctual. Like, if somebody says be there at 5, I'm usually there at 4.
Yeah.
You know, like, I just like to be on time for things. And that's just me. And it's the complete opposite. Because, like I said, most musicians are like, oh, I'll get there when I get there.
Whenever.
Yeah. Like, no, I hate to live like that.
I want to back up for a second and talk about how I met you. And that was about 4 years ago, maybe almost 5. So my son, Ben, who's now 16, he took a funk camp at DIME, Detroit Institute of Music Education. And when I picked him up after the first day, he was like, I just met the coolest man I've ever met. So Ben plays saxophone. Saxappeal plays saxophone. You know, he was just like, you know, he had been playing in the school band.
Right.
And middle school band. Saxophone.
Yep.
And then to see what you do and be in a funk band, and it was like he saw, oh, this is what you could do with the saxophone.
See, in like middle school, I took or maybe not even middle school, maybe it was elementary school, I took the clarinet, and I always wanted to take the saxophone because that was the cool instrument.
Oh, yeah.
This was the 80s when there was like a sax solo at the end of
everything. Yeah.
Everything?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, if I can play that, I'll get all the girls.
All the girls. Get your long hair.
Never happened.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to give you a shout out to that too, because you are all about teaching the younger generation. I mean, you've taught before, you educate, and I think that's really awesome too.
I definitely appreciate it. Honestly, the teachers that I had before me, they wouldn't have had it any other way. If I didn't pass the knowledge that they gave me, you know, then they would probably just shun me. You know, I had the pleasure of having Marcus Belgrave as a teacher, which is like a Detroit jazz trumpet legend. Felton Jones, which is also a jazz trumpeter from Detroit. I've had so many great instructors and great mentors, you know, and I'm sure I'll get smacked upside the head like, why didn't you mention me? But, you know, trying to think of everybody at the same time, and it always makes me draw a blank. My high school band conductor, Dr. Ed Quick, who played a huge role of not just teaching me the importance of music, but the importance of giving music back to everyone.
Yeah.
You know, and that's always been a major thing for me, because this isn't mine to hold on to. You know, it's meant for us to share, and it's meant to bring people together. And that was one of his main objectives, is to teach that to us.
That's very cool. And then Ben had the opportunity to take private lessons with you.
Yeah.
And so I want to give a shout out to the Detroit Saxophone Center.
Oh, yeah.
You want to tell everybody about that?
Well, I've actually been partnering with the Detroit Sax Center, which is owned and ran by Richard Piak. And he is not only a sax guru, but he's like, I always call him the sax whisperer, because he'll take any horn, no matter how damaged or beat up this thing is, and he will make it sound brand new. The thing sings. So, like, when I met him, like, he took my horn and he, like, gently just rubbed it. He's like, we're going to get this thing back together. And I was like, there's no way this horn is going to sound new. And then, like, I got it back and was like, what did you do to my horn? This thing sounds brand new. And he never would tell me what it is, but like he's
such an unassuming guy.
He
just
is.
like
you see him and it's like
whatever.
Whatever. Like and he's a great guy. Again, he sells saxophones at his shop, and he also has an upstairs where you can have private lessons. And he's been fortunate. I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with him and have a few students do lessons at the Sax Center. So,
yeah, and every time we'd be like half-hour lesson, and it'd go into an hour because they just get into it, and the place smells like Motown. I swear
it does. It really does.
It smells like Motown.
It smells like the Motown recording studios.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know. It just does.
It just has that hard work, gritty Detroit feel to it. Yeah, it does have that. That old pine. Yeah, it does. I've never even thought of that.
Oh my gosh! The minute I walked in, I was like, "Oh my gosh,
it smells like Motown."
This would be good. Yeah.
I smell. Is that a temptation? All right. Well, can I call you Sax? Is that what people call? All right.
That's what everybody calls me.
We're excited to have you on the show. Stick around and just enjoy yourself. Okay.
Yes, indeed. It's gonna be fun.
This is the D.
All right, Becky. Let's get into music news.
Okay, so the Works Club in Corktown, I don't know if you guys are familiar, it's a techno club. It's been operating for over 2 decades. They're on Michigan Avenue. They've hosted some top DJs. We're talking like Derek Carter, Kevin Saunderson, Pete Tong. It's particularly known for the Movement Festival after parties that happen Memorial Weekend, but they do parties every week if you're into the techno scene.
Sax, are you a techno fan?
I am.
Are you really?
You have to be a techno. Techno was born and raised in Detroit.
It's just a Detroit thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like saying, are you a fan of Faygo? What?
Well, hello. Better Made Chips. Oh, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So they're facing eviction. So there's a way you can get involved and help save them.
Okay.
To me, it's about a larger discussion, okay? Gentrification, buildings being sold. That's what happened with them. This building was sold. New owner earlier this year decided not to offer them a lease. So they need to find a new home. So they're starting to GoFundMe.
Wait, decided not to offer them a lease or price them out of it?
No, just didn't elect to, give them a renewable lease because they want to do something different with the building. Okay. So there's a lot of this talk, like what's going to happen in Corktown? There's been such a revitalization since the Tigers left, and there's been a lot of new restaurants and
Ford moving in.
But now Ford's moving in, and so they're calling it Corktown 2.0. So is it going to erase some of what's made it great? A lot of artists and musicians live there, and there's been some kind of grittier, cool places, and what's going to happen? So it's interesting. They want to raise $50,000 for a new location. I'm interested to see how many people get behind something like that.
What can you do with $50,000? I mean, is that enough to?
Well, I guess they haven't disclosed this location they want to go to, but they have to put in sprinkler systems and they do upgrades to make it.
Oh, I see. So they've got something in mind
for a club. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah. So movies, let's turn our direction to that. There's a new movie called Bodied from director Joseph Kahn. It came out last weekend. The plot is around the world of battle rap, but it's mainly more about the language we use and kind of the policing and censoring of language and, who we're allowed to say what to and what we can call ourselves and what we can call other people. That whole...
I feel like there's a racial dimension to what you're talking about here.
Well, that or any otherness dimension.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's what it's trying to get at, especially in our culture. It's just, more and more, woke. Are you going to be woke and, say the right things,
Right.
So Eminem has a producer credit on the film, and that helped it get widespread distribution. And Eminem's worked with Kahn on several music videos, including Without Me, which won them a Grammy and an MTV Music Video Award. So Kahn self-financed the movie. He made it, and then he brought it to Eminem. Eminem loved it, and now it's distributed everywhere. And Eminem even bought out a night at the AMC in Sterling Heights so everybody could go see it for free.
Nice.
So that was packed, but you can still see it there.
I want to get to that point in my career where I can just find somebody who's got a film and just here, have some money.
Can you go throw something at this? Yeah.
If you were to produce a film, what would it be?
That's a good question. Well, I'm big on like suspense thrillers, but I'm also big on comedy. So I would try and figure out how to mesh the two.
Ooh, that'd be a good mashup.
Yeah.
So what about you? If you were to produce a film?
Gosh, I really have not thought about it. I don't know.
I would want to revive some of my favorite like TV shows.
Oh,
like which
maybe.
Ones?
Well, they already made a film out of Firefly. They made Serenity.
Okay.
Freaks and Geeks, which was actually set outside of Detroit
in
here.
Detroit, yeah.
That they only did for a season. I would love to see. I mean, the kids are all grown at this point, so they couldn't do it. But I would love to see something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So no, definitely. And then you got any Detroit actors that you put in your who's going to be in your film?
I got a bunch of like Detroit friends and actors that are like they're killing it right now. I actually know a couple of people who are releasing a movie in December 6th, I think is the premiere date out at where is the release at? What's the theater in Royal Oak?
Imagine
Theater. I think it's December 6th. The movie is called The Users.
Oh, I think I've heard something about that.
So, a lot of my friends are in that movie.
Oh.
All right. We have to get a trailer for that. Put it up on the website.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And would your movie be shot in Detroit, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Send them our way. We'll, I'll
do that.
Talk to them about that.
I'll get the director see if I can get you guys to.
Look at that.
We should talk.
We're booking right now.
Yeah.
Live during the show.
Moving and shaking. How about
putting them on the calendar?
This is how it works.
How about Madonna? Do you know Madonna?
Yeah. I met Madonna.
You
She liked the horse that I had at my job back in, was it 2013, 2014? She came to Detroit.
What?
So I used to work at this company called Depop, which was a subsidiary of Quicken Loans, and she did like a Detroit tour.
Yeah, 2014.
She went and checked out all the new buildings and everything, all the haps that was happening in Detroit. And she came down to our office, and the office is inside like a bank vault inside of the Detroit Federal Building, the old building. And she just fell in love with this horse. It's a full-size horse, but it's a lamp. And it's painted all black, and it's a pink lamp, and she just put it on her Instagram page, and the thing went viral. And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
So what's the story with Madonna? Because I know she's from the area, but
Rochester, so northern suburbs of Detroit. And for years, she kind of just didn't associate herself at all with Detroit. A lot of times she'd be on tour, and she wouldn't even make a stop here.
Yep.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's hardcore.
Oh, yeah. So it wasn't a good warm and fuzzy, you know. She, a lot of people think she affected an accent and, just was not Midwestern at all.
Huh.
And really wasn't contributing, not that that's an obligation, but she wasn't giving back in Detroit. But then in 2014, I think it was kind of like, oh, it is hip to care about Detroit. I need to come see. Mm-hmm. But, she did some great things while she was here, and including giving a bunch of money to Detroit Achievement Academy at the time. And she is still on the education bench. So I guess she's now starting a new matching grant challenge for Detroit Prep Charter School, which is a school for K through third grade, and they're hoping to expand to eighth grade eventually. They're moving into an abandoned public school on the east side, kind of taking that over, and she's offered up $100,000. So by the end of the year, if they can raise $100,000, she will match it.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah. And you can donate online at detroitprep.org. So I've got some concert picks for you guys coming up. Friday, November 9th, there's a double album release party. I love these guys. So the first album is Will Sessions with Amp Fiddler and Dames Brown, who I had the pleasure of seeing at Movement when I went over Memorial, and they are just an amazing group together. So you got Will Sessions that does a lot of things on their own, Amp Fiddler, who's a legend, Dames Brown is three women. So they've got their album coming out, and they're partnering with Wajid, who also has an album coming out, to do a big show at Elk Club on Friday.
Nice.
So Wajid means a lot to you, right, Saxappeal?
Wajid is one of the mentors of Detroit that I was fortunate enough to sit up under. So funny Wajid story. Many moons ago, long time ago, Wajid used to stay in a loft downtown called the Lafayette Lofts, which my aunt used to manage.
Oh.
And there was a lot of the who's who now, like the Detroit legends, I like to call them. It was Mike Clark, which is Agent X, who was one of the reasons that Detroit techno became a big thing in Detroit. And also Wajid. Who else was in that building? T3 from Slum Village.
Oh, sure.
It was so many artists that were in that building, and I sat up under them as much as I can. And Wajid actually used to stay on the same floor as my aunt. So anytime he would fire up his music and start making beats and everything, I would just kind of tiptoe my way over to the door, and I just sit there, and like he would know that I would be around because you could always hear him like stop or turn the music down. He'd open the door. What is it? What you want? I just want to listen to the music. And so like he'll come in and he'll always give me like crates of music, and it would just be like from like classic stuff to just stuff I've never heard of. Yeah. Like he gave me my first Grover Washington album, which was Wine Light. He gave me a Yusef Lateef album, which was like the Latitude Longitude Detroit album that he had. It was just countless albums in that the first crate that he gave me. He gave me like 2 or 3 crates just full of music. It was like, here, go make yourself. Go do something. Yeah. Just go do something. Just busy work. And I would just sit there and, this is so cool. This is so cool. And like at the time, I didn't realize like how big a deal it was for Wajid to be giving me this stuff. And he was just kind of like experimenting with music. This is like when he had Bling 47, and like they were doing a lot of work with Slum Village. They were doing a lot of stuff with Jay Dilla, and they were just experimenting with music, just trying to figure it all out. And this was somebody who was down the hall from me, and this guy was internationally known and was just, I mean, he's still doing great things for the music community and still making a killing. He just put out a recent project, and he just got off a tour from that, so with the project the release that he's doing this weekend. So, he's bringing it home. And
that's going to be a hot night, Friday night at our club. Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Oh, that's such a cool Detroit story.
Yeah.
So there's a good lineup of shows this week at the Fillmore. Friday, they've got the Thievery Corporation. Next Monday, the 12th, Tenacious D. And next Tuesday, Elvis Costello and the Imposters.
Nice.
Yeah.
I saw Tenacious D a while back in Seattle. This is when I was working in radio. And you know how some radio stations, they do the little acoustic performance by a band. And they come in
I love
for
those.
a bunch of winners. Yeah. So we did this, and I forget whether it was around Halloween or what the story was, but we decided to do it as a toga party. So everybody from the radio station dressed up in togas.
Nice.
But we didn't tell Tenacious D. So we just showed up, and they're like looking at the audience. Somewhere, I don't know where it is, I need to find it, there is a photo of me sitting on Jack Black's lap in nothing but a toga.
Oh, wow. That's you got to put that up on our Instagram.
I got to find it. I have no idea.
How is that not a poster in your house?
Right.
Wow. So Sunday, November 11th, is a lot going on. The Get Up Kids are at the Magic Stick. The Temptations are at Andiamo Showroom in Warren. And this caught my eye. It sounds like a very classy event at the Willis Show Bar, which is a classy place to begin with. But you have Henry the Hatter and 1701 Bespoke present An Evening of Style. So 1701 Bespoke is a company, a fashion company. They make handmade suits and tuxedos and stuff for men. So there's going to be a panel discussion about suits.
Oh, good.
The history of them, style, fit, how to care for them.
Whether they make them for short people?
They do. Well, they'll make anything. They fit to you.
You know what the short person's tax is, right? I mean, I've got 3 pairs of jeans right now at the tailor because they don't make clothes my size.
You're going to have to add the extra money.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. This is an issue.
It is an issue. Well, you know what? There's not just one body. There's all kinds of bodies.
Yes, indeed.
So,
yes.
And there's also going to be a live band. So I don't know that they're considered their house band, but there's a band called the Heavy Petters that plays a lot.
That's a nice name. That's a good name for a band.
I've seen them.
About somebody petting a rabbit real hard.
How
about that?
Something like that.
How about a collaboration? Saxappeal and the Heavy Petters.
There it is.
I like it. And they also have a DJ, the Dapper DJ, that'll be there that night. Special one-night only cocktails and a pop-up shop where you can buy rare vintage clothing pieces.
Nice. Hey, I also want to mention a show that's going on sale this week. It doesn't happen until the spring. I think it's March 22nd at the Masonic Temple, which is Massive Attack, the British kind of trip-hop group that I've always loved. That's one of my favorite concerts that I've ever seen, and so to see them at the Masonic Temple, I think would be.
You got to jump on that. They're on sale now.
They go on sale this week.
Okay,
so
look for them.
Yeah, maybe by the time this episode drops, they might be out. Coming up in just a few minutes, there are going to be some new galleries open at the DIA. We'll tell you all about them.
Debrief.
Want more? Text the word Detroit to the number 444-999.
All right, Becky, Sax, this is something that we do from time to time. We have somebody call in who is an expert in something in the area.
Right.
And this is a guy that we've had on the show a couple of times before. We really like having him on. In fact, he co-hosted with us once.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, he was great. This is Steve Johnson. He is the founder of Motor City Brew Tours. He is also the author of a book called Detroit Beer, A History of Brewing in the Motor City. Steve, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I think I'm an expert of something. I like hearing it that way.
Well, you've been practicing a lot, right?
Plus, you're just
I'm always practicing.
Right. Plus, you're just a really fun guy to sit down and have a beer with.
Well, thank you. That's nice of you to say that.
Well, look, I wanted to have you on because the weather is changing, the seasons are changing, and I know the beers change around this time too. So I wanted to find out if there are any either fall or winter beers that you're excited about.
Definitely. Look, we're a little past fall at this point, so we really have kind of shifted into winter gear. And if you're out in party stores or grocery stores or even at any of your local watering holes, you'd really start seeing more brown ales and stouts and porters and lots of fun interpretations like that as we kind of move into the winter time frame for the next so many months here. And lots of breweries doing their fun seasonals that have come out at this point. So some of my favorites, I'll give you a good example of a brewery in Marshall, Michigan, so kind of southwest side of the state, Dark Horse. They come out with a beer this time of year called Scotty Karate. Isn't that a fun name?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a kind of a higher alcohol Scotch ale. So it's malty. It typically has a little bit of a smoke character to it. Goes great with food. It's a good kind of sipping beer, I'd say. And another beer they do that's also, it's considered their kind of winter seasonal. It's called 4 Elf, and they actually do a party out there in Marshall, Michigan. That's a 4 Elf party where they do a bunch of other variants of this that they release at this party. And that's a traditional winter warmer type of beer. So when I say that, it's a little higher alcohol, and it typically has spices added into like a stout style beer that a lot of different breweries do. But Dark Horses, Scotty Karate, and this 4 Elf they're really known for that this time of year.
Now, Sax, are you a beer drinker?
I am.
What, you got a particular style that you like?
Not really. I'm when it comes to beer, I'm kind of like the same way when it comes to my music. Like, I just want to try some new things, and like improv is like my way of life, so it's like, all right, let's try this and let's try this.
I'm the same way. When I walk into a place, I want to get the flight, and I just want to try a little bit of everything.
I don't want to commit to a big glass.
Absolutely.
Like, just let me try a bunch.
Yeah. So, all right, what else is on your list of recommendations there, Steve?
Right Brain. It's a brewery out of Traverse City, but their beers are widely available in the Detroit market. They have a great beer that comes out this time of year. It's got a great name and it has a cool graphic. It's called Naughty Girl Stout.
Perfect.
So it's a stout. So it's really like a chocolatey stout where they've added mint into it, and it really plays well with the beer. It's a great beer. It's not too high in alcohol. It's something you could even probably have a couple of, and it's a real popular beer. I actually went to one of these where they pair cookies with beer, and obviously you could take like a Girl Scout cookie, a Thin Mint, and drink it with this, and it would really play well. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did that one time at Ale Mary's in Royal Oak.
Yeah, they're one of the ones that do it.
Really interesting. Yeah. So if you want to be extra naughty, have beer and cookies.
Nice.
No doubt, right? Another one I had listed on here was Rochester Mills, which is in this market. Okay, Rochester Mills, they have a production brewery out in Auburn Hills, a little bit south of where the Palace is. They actually even have a little tasting room in there. And they've just released today, actually, they've released their 12-pack, assorted pack of milkshake stouts. So it's like 12 milkshake stouts for Christmas kind of thing. And it has 12 different variants in it of their famous milkshake stout beer. All kinds of crazy combinations.
Steve, I had that last year. I don't know. There may have been a few different ones or new ones, but yeah, it sounds like dessert. And we got that last year and had fun trying them.
What they do every year is they kind of listen to feedback and they swap out some each year. So this year, they kind of an interesting one. They have a milkshake stout blonde, which I haven't tried yet. And I'm not sure exactly what that means when you say a stout and a blonde, because that's sort of doesn't make sense.
It's an oxymoron of sorts.
It totally is, isn't it? I was in another brewery and they had what they called a coffee white stout. And I said, what? I don't get it, right? What makes it white? And it's just kind of a play on words, maybe just a cooler way to market it. But I will definitely be looking to try this.
I just had one of those at Eastern Market Brewing. Has, I think, a coffee white stout. Yep.
That's exactly what I'm referring to. I was just out there a week ago, too. Oh, how funny is that?
Hey, by the way, we're going to be there next Monday night. We're doing a live taping of the podcast. So if you're around, please come join us.
November 12th. We'll have Mark Kurlianchuk, who's the Free Press restaurant critic, and also Bob Allen, who's the Free Press beer columnist, will be there.
I saw that. That sounds like a lot of fun. I really like that brewery. I was just out there a couple of weeks ago, and I did a beer book history talk on their kind of second floor that they don't really have open yet. But it was all very rustic and rough, and we had about 30 people up there. And it was a lot of fun. The management there, the brewers, they're kind of firing on all cylinders right now. I really like going to Eastern Market Brewing. I was there Saturday night, and it was packed at like 4:30 in the afternoon. Like, I mean, it was
on market days. It's very busy all day long. Yeah,
there were a lot of people in there. They had the food truck in the alley going. So, hey, speaking of which, are there any other beer events coming up that you're excited about? Well, actually, I'm doing a beer history talk coming up next week on Tuesday, November 13th. I'll be at the Fillmore 13 Brewery in downtown Pontiac. And I'm doing a Detroit Beer Book History Talk starting at 7 p.m. It's free. It's open to everybody. They got really good pizza, really good food, and, of course, a lot of great beer there at Fillmore 13 in downtown Pontiac on November 13th. So you can go to my website, motorcitybrewtours.com, to get a little more information about that. I'm also doing a bus tour
to 3 breweries on December 8th, one of which is Rochester Mills Production Brewery. So if you want to try all those milkshake stouts, it's a good way to do it. And I'm taking people all the way out to Oxford to Homegrown Brewing Company, which is a couple years old, a really great brewery out there in downtown Oxford. And then on the way back, we're going to go to this really small place called Fourth Coast Cider Works. That's in like an industrial park. And is only open to the public a couple hours a week, but they're making really interesting hard ciders in there. And I can't wait to do that on December 8th with some folks. So like I said, more information will be at my website for that.
You get into all the cool spots. I love it.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, look, Steve, thanks so much for joining us. We love talking to you because I find out about all these beers that I want to go try because this state has so many amazing
it's endless
beers. And now I feel like I can, pick some up and bring them over to Thanksgiving and be the cool guy in the room. You know what I mean? Hey, Steve, thanks for joining us. Again, all the details are over on your website. What's the website again?
It's MotorCityBrewTours.com.
And if people are looking for a gift, maybe for Christmas, I highly recommend the book, Detroit Beer, A History of Brewing in the Motor City. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D.
Brave.
Becky, let's talk about some of the events that are happening around town.
I can't believe we're already talking about holidays, but this is going to start coming up every week now. Somebody will have a holiday opening of some sort. So Pewabic Pottery, this Thursday night, November 8th, they're going to do an opening reception for their holiday pottery line. So they debut their newest pieces. They've got holiday favorites that come up every year. They do really great ornaments that people collect and other items that are only available for holidays. So that's always a big turnout for that.
Have you ever been there, Sax, to Pewabic Pottery?
I haven't. That's the one on Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
I've been past it a million times.
You got to go in. I mean, if you like ceramics at all. I used to work there.
I didn't. It's not like I'm a pottery aficionado.
Well,
but
yeah.
like I went in there. It's pretty cool, and they've now done a groundbreaking. I don't know when exactly it's going to open.
I think it did.
Did it already?
Yeah. The fire studio.
Yeah, they're expanding
nice.
to do all this kind of stuff. But they really do.
And it's just super historic, and to know that it was started by a woman, and she created all these proprietary glazes that still are a secret.
Right.
It's pretty neat.
Tiger Stadium or anywhere you see
Airport.
tile.
All the old buildings.
There's a good chance it's
Tons of
Pewabic.
old homes.
Nice.
Yeah. It's one of our treasures, definitely. So the DIA has new galleries that just opened this past Sunday, the Asian galleries. So it's been a long time in the making. So if you're familiar with how the DIA sort of redid everything in 2007, they completely reimagined what an art museum should be and how people approach and interact with exhibits and what hangs with what in terms of art styles. So the one kind of missing piece these past few years has been these Asian galleries. So now they're up. I hear they're just amazing. So I've just seen photos, incredible, like peaceful kind of space. And what's neat about it is usually ancient art is presented in very much a timeline. So you have stuff from centuries ago, and that's emphasized. But at the DIA, they're mixing the really old stuff in with contemporary pieces and Detroit artists, Asian artists, so it's really the whole spectrum. So the Japanese gallery opened last year, but now they've added Chinese, Korean, Indian, and Southeast Asian art, plus a gallery dedicated to Buddhist art. So to me, it seems like a nice place if you just need to relax this winter and get your Zen on.
I was thinking about this because it's actually been a while since I've been to the DIA, and I like to go for those Friday night music events that they have. Have you ever performed?
I have. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's always fun there. The atmosphere is amazing.
They do. What's the name of the room? They do this in front of the big mural,
the court, Rivera Court.
Yep.
Yes, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
and,
it's always a great night. Always music and different performances.
It's free for me, right? So what is it? It's certain counties or
it's free for the Tri-County residents. Yep.
It's worth going. I mean,
definitely. They'll have
head down there.
workshops. You can sometimes make things, and So the Asian galleries, I thought that was kind of interesting. Robert and Catherine Jacobs Asian Galleries is what it's called, and Robert Jacobs is the CEO of Buddy's Pizza. So,
nice.
Yeah.
They didn't want to call it the Buddy's Pizza.
I guess that would not be as classy,
True.
So Signal Return as Eastern Market, a great place. I take a lot of my tour groups there. They are one of the oldest letterpresses in the country. It's historic equipment. So every once in a while they open it up where you can just make your own things there. They have classes and stuff. So on this Friday, November 9th, they have their holiday card jam, which I've done before. You can make your own holiday cards. So they have 5 letterpresses set up with different styles, and you can actually go and like operate the press. And
explain what a letterpress is for somebody who's not familiar with it, because it was kind of new to me. We had them on the podcast very early days, and I had no idea what a letterpress was.
Yeah. So like I said, it's a very old art form, and it's usually metal or wood pieces of letters, numbers. There's sets with set things. Okay. Or artists can carve new, main sets that you print off of. Yeah. And then you attach paper, you put the ink in, and you run it over and make prints.
Have you figured out the album cover art for Black Gold yet?
I'm working on it.
I'm just saying.
This might be.
This would be a cool way to go.
It's a very hands-on technique.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool to make your own art, but it's really satisfying because they've done the design for you, and you're just kind of. But there is a definite if you push it down harder, you get the darker, more saturated ink. If you're a little bit lighter touch, you may get a softer look to it. So it's just fun, and they'll have a DJ playing refreshments, and it's a fundraiser for them too because they're a nonprofit. So.
What is Planet Ant?
I'm the editor for Eater Detroit.
The restaurant critic for the Detroit Free Press.
Caretaker of Say Nice Things About Detroit.
The Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
Detroit Art Week.
WDET 1019.
The Detroit Public Theater.
And you're listening to...
And you're listen, blah, blah, blah.
To the debrief or the debrief?
To the debrief.
I said the name wrong.
Okay, let me try that one more time.
The debrief.
The debrief.
The debrief.
I'm so sorry.
All right, let's get into a story that I thought was really cool. I want to... I basically want to shout out some fellow podcasters. And these are the folks over at Michigan Radio who have collaborated with NPR on a podcast. The podcast is about Larry Nassar. He was the former sports medicine doctor at Michigan State University and USA Gymnastics. And we all know the stories. 150 victims, and it's a terrible tragedy. And it's one of those things that you see in the news, but it only goes so deep on the news. So Kate Wells and Lindsay Smith of Michigan Radio are actually hosting this podcast that's called Believed, and it goes deeper into the issue and basically explains how this could have happened to so many people for so long, because you have to wonder that, right?
I think that was the major question on most people's mind,
right,
is how did he get away with this?
So they get into it, and they explore it. The first episode is just about how much he was a nice guy, and it sort of starts with Carrie Strug when she was at the Olympics, and the photograph, and you can see him in the background, and how his career started. And it's really fascinating, but it hit number 1 on the iTunes chart, which is sort of what you want to be when you're a podcast. We're almost there.
Pretty close.
So close. Tell your friends.
In no time. That's right.
But Wells has been covering the Nassar story since 2016, and Smith was the leader of Michigan Radio's Flint water crisis investigation. So these are journalists who really know what they're doing. They're expecting to make 8 episodes in all. They haven't completely finished the podcast series, but definitely go check it out. I'm just a big fan of supporting other Michigan, Detroit podcasters.
For sure, yeah.
There's obviously a lot of great national podcasts out there, but there's some local ones that I like as well. I mean, I know you've been a fan of a couple, right?
Yeah, the Shattered podcast that Jeremy Allen and WDIV did. That was really great. The Black Friday one, and then the White Boy Rick. So they've had 2 seasons. Those I just binge listened to. They were great. Yeah,
we had him on a while back, and if you're into true crime, those are just fascinating. What about you? You a podcast listener?
I am. I'm typically listening to. There's one from Detroit called The Ron Dan Show. One of my good friends. He's on Also Radio, which is also a podcast. I think he does his show on Sundays from, I believe it's 4 to 6, but he does it every Sunday, and he has an interesting way of asking certain questions, and it's I don't even know how to explain it. It's funny and it's provocative, and it makes you think about how I don't understand how nobody else except this guy can come up with the questions that he comes up with, but it makes you think and say, I've never thought about it like that. It just has this really interesting perspective of everything. But yeah, I think it's 3 to 5 that he does his show.
And what's his name? What's the name of the show?
The Ron Dance Show.
Ron Dance.
All right, very cool. All right, so be thinking about that when you're thinking about podcasts. I mean, again, I know there's a ton of great national podcasts out there, but there's a ton of great local ones too.
Well, yeah, and I like this one because obviously it was a Michigan story, but
Yes.
that resonated through the whole country
Oh,
and
yeah.
the world, really, and people want to know more, just because you don't want this to happen again. Like you don't want to miss.
And I struggle with a little bit, I love the true crime podcasts, and for some reason I have a much easier time with the murder true crime podcasts, and this one is just a little
It's
gorier, but check it out. But really, the folks over there at Michigan Radio did a nice job with it, so it's the Believed podcast.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D. Breathe.
All right, there we go. That's a show in the bag.
Good stuff.
Look, before we get out of here, let's give some shout-outs. Who do you want to shout out this week, Becky?
Oh, sure. Real quick, last Thursday, I went to Detroit City Distillery. They always do a great job, and they do different pop-up food there. And when I went, they had Electric Plate Vegan, and I had never had her food before, and I'm telling you, it was amazing. So their nachos, you get what I'm saying?
No. Wait, do that again?
N-O-T chose.
Oh, okay.
Nachos, because it's all plant-based. So the nachos, but it tastes so good. Like the melted cheese, they make their own nacho cheese sauce, and I think they were called like the Jefferson Avenue nachos.
Nice.
Spicy kick, delicious. Like I would put those up against anybody else's nachos, even if you're a big meat lover. So check them out, Electric Plate Vegan.
Nice. Sax, anybody you want to give a shout-out to?
Shout outs to my band. Shout outs to my man Dean Beans, who's co-producing this project with me. Black Gold will be out in February. Shout out to Charlie Wilson's band. Half of us are from Detroit, so when we out on that stage, we're representing everybody from Detroit City.
November 17th. People can see you, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be at Motor City Casino from 5 to 9, and then I'll be at the Alley Cat in Pontiac right after that.
Wow. And I have to mention that the shirt I'm wearing today is from your line.
That is a dope shirt.
It is super dope. And you have a bunch of cool shirts on your website. Saxappeal.
It is Saxappeal.
This guy knows how to brand. Okay, so he's got Saxappeal. When he sends you an email, it says from my saxophone.
That's right.
He is just got it going on.
I've been doing this for
with
a long time.
all the sax references.
It's so funny because a lot of it is real trial and error, and a lot of it is really corny, and you just say nope, throw that out. That's not gonna work. But some of it sticks, and people are like, you know what? Just hold on to that. That's gold right there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So check out his website where you can get all the good swag.
Please do.
I want to give a shout out to Detroit Shipping Company. I made my way over there for the first time over there in Cass Corridor.
Did you try it all?
So I tried the Caribbean corn from Coop because we had Chef Max Hardy on a while back.
He spoke about it. Yeah.
Yep. I had the pork belly from Bangkok 96. You know me. I got to walk in and there's like 4 or 5 little restaurants there, and I had to try like a dish from each. Yeah. So I had the pork belly from Bangkok 96. That was really, really good.
Nice.
And then we went upstairs to eat, and we were in this. I mean, it's just because it's made out of these shipping containers, and it's just this really cool space. There's a lot of art hanging on the walls. I really like the Monica Manning has a bunch of photographs of old. It's kind of like ruins, buildings around Detroit that are in ruins. I think one was the Boblo Ferry, for example, and there were others. And we were looking at them trying to guess
what was what.
Yeah,
it's a great space for art and local musicians too.
Yeah. And then the Podcast Detroit studios are there as well, right there as well. So that was a really cool spot. So this used to be Chinatown right here. This area is what I was told.
Where Detroit Shipping Company is now is nothing.
Right.
And really until Peterborough came was nothing. Okay. Like you just wouldn't.
That's the restaurant that's just like next door.
Yeah, and it's by the Burton Elementary School. But that was originally Chinatown, and then it went away, and none of that history was preserved.
Wow.
And it just was part of the seedy part of Cass Corridor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm telling you, just in the last few years, totally transformed.
It's looking a lot better. I mean, there were a lot of hipsters hanging out there.
Well, yep.
It was full. So, look, hey, Sax, thank you so much for coming on the show and hanging out.
Hey, man, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
We'll have you on tomorrow's show as well.
Yeah, and then we might reveal your real name.
That's cool. Tell the government.
Thank you also to Stephen Johnson of Motor City Brew Tours for calling in and telling us about his favorite beers coming up.
And don't forget Thursday's show. Our guest is rapper Champtown, the director of The Untold Story of Detroit Hip Hop, which is a new documentary on Amazon.
And on Monday night, we've got a live show. We are taping 7 o'clock at Eastern Market Brewing. Our guests?
Mark Kurlianchuk, Detroit Free Press restaurant critic, and Robert Allen, who's the Free Press beer columnist.
And our good friend Mike Jeter, stand-up comedian who helped me launch this podcast well over a year ago.
He's going to make us laugh.
Yeah, he's going to come out.
You and I aren't all that funny, so we want...
Speak for yourself.
I beg to differ. You guys are hilarious.
All right, and if it is still Tuesday as you're listening to this, get out.
Vote.
All right, until tomorrow, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.